Welcoming Dick to the Hall of Fame is Bob Knight. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Vitale.
Thank you. Bob, I simply want to say that I'm so honored, absolutely thrilled beyond belief that you would be here tonight to present me. I have such great respect for your integrity, your loyalty, your friendship, and I also want to thank you. Several months ago, Bob Knight allowed us to honor him, and we raised in one night $1.2 million to fight cancer. Thank you, Robert. I sit here in awe as I look at this crowd. I see the face of John Thompson. I see a Magic Johnson, who a coach's dream. Last night, the words you echoed about Pat Riley nearly brought my wife and I to tears. Your love, your passion, your unbelievable feeling, a coach's dream. I was telling people, Magic and I and his wife, Cookie, was sharing a story. I'll tell you why Magic is what he became. I tried to recruit Magic with my buddies Mike Brunker and David Gaines, who were here. I was at the University of Detroit. We really had no chance. He was heading to Michigan State, but I wanted the winner's edge. So I told my assistants, we're going to go 7 in the morning before all the other recruiters, Judd Heathcote and those people after school, and we're going to talk to Magic that one last time about what it would be like to own the city of Detroit, to be in a motor city, and to be the man. Well, we knocked on the door, and his mom came out. I said, I came to see Magic. Just happened to be in Lansing. It's about 7 o'clock. I'd like to have a little breakfast. She said, I'm sorry, Coach. Magic's not here. I said, Magic's not here. She said, he's at the playground. Playground? It was snowing. It was ice. I walked out, and I looked at this kid. Around his back, between his legs. He didn't know we were watching him. I got down in the Catholic religion. The miracle worker is St. Jude. St. Jude is always with me in my pocket. My mother gave me St. Jude when I lost my eye as a kid, and I carry St. Jude. And I said, St. Jude, I've been a good guy this year. Please let me get Magic, please. But Magic, you let me down. You went to Michigan State. But my friend, I would have given anything in the world to coach you, because as good as you were, I couldn't screw you up. But you see, I mentioned the awe in this room. My God, I look to the right, I see a Jerry West. I see a Bob Cousy, a John Havlicek. I'll take you a little journey in my life. Early 60s, I wanted to be a coach. I'm in high school, and I'm team, and many of my players are here tonight that I coach. I wish one kid was here, but unfortunately lost his life, the star of our team, Les Cason. But many of my other kids are here that started. My assistant coach is here, Bob Stolarz, a brilliant mind. But they'll remember the stories. As I would sit them down, I would say, I want to play like Red Auerbach. I want to be like the Boston Celtics. Red Auerbach, the definition is NBA. Understood how to win. I said, what's so difficult to do what he does? He teaches a rebound, a pass, a shot. Well, his rebounder was number 6. His name was Russell. He was a Windex man. My rebounder, he couldn't get over the telephone book. And then he pitched it out to his dribbler. His dribbler was number 14. And I told you, Magic, when I spoke at the Magic Round Ball Foundation, I told Magic that day, I said, Magic, you were only a gleam in your mother's eye when number 14 was going between his legs and around his back. And he'd come down one night and he'd give it a Charmin, and it'd be nothing but nylon. The next night, he'd say, screw you, Charmin. You didn't take me out for dinner. Go around his back and give it to Sam Jones and off the backboard, or to Havlicek, or to all the greats he played with. Well, I tried to play like the Celtics, but we couldn't play like the Celtics. And if you've ever seen grass grow, that's what it was like to us to play. And I learned a little bit about that, about ball-you-man defense, about playing the pressure on a ball, denying, scrapping, clawing. from the general, Robert Montgomery Knight, when he didn't even know that I was learning. I was sitting in the third tier at Madison Square Garden, and I would watch as he had Army with a guard by the name of Krzyzewski, and they shocked South Carolina. And then I went to a clinic, and I heard the man speak. I said, oh my God, his ability to communicate, his theories, his concepts. People know about Ball You Man. People know about blocking out. People know all the terminology, but how many get people to play with passion and feeling, like the John Thompsons, like the Bob Knights, and the many other giants, the Jack Ramseys, the U.B. Browns, the Chuck Daly's, that I have so much admiration for. This room is so special to me. My career, well, went from high school, and then all of a sudden, I get that great opportunity to go to Rutgers University. Howard Garfinkel, a five-star. I can't thank you enough, Howard, sitting here, for making a call to Dick Lloyd, who's also here, to give me that opportunity, even though I broke my wife's heart because she kept saying to me, when are you going to get a job and make some money like my girlfriend's husbands? All you're doing is chasing these guys playing basketball and you're making no cash. I was making like about $12,000 a year in East Rutherford, coaching in the summer camps, and now I get the opportunity to go to Rutgers. A buddy of mine had a theory. His theory was a boy, a ball, a dream, Dick. A boy, a ball, a dream. And that was my life. I'm a gym rat. Absolutely love the game. The game has been so good to me. But then Dick Lloyd hires me at Rutgers, and I come running home and give my wife a hug. I said, I can't believe it. I'm going to be a college coach. And she said to me, well, what does it mean financially? I said, you know what? I think it's at least 25 G's a year, but I took the job. I never asked them what I'm getting paid. So I called them up. I said, Dick, what are you going to pay me? He said, what are you making right now? I said, I'm making about $12,000 a year. He said, that's fantastic. You're only going to take a $1,000 cut, baby. I came home. I got on my knees in front of my wife, and I said, pride, patience, patience. I went there, had the greatest time. We recruited, Dick and I were fortunate to recruit some great kids. You might remember their names, Phil Sellers and Mike Dabney. And that opened the door for me. And I got a call from the University of Detroit. I was such a dummy economically. I could have used help from some of the brilliant business people here, like Mr. Stern, who's done a marvelous job promoting basketball internationally. I could have used some help because the University of Detroit guys, as they were sitting there, and many are here tonight, they said to me, what would it take for you to be our coach? We like some of the things you're saying. I said, well, I'm making right now 11th hour a year. You give me 15 and I'm coming. They said, that's great, man. We're a Catholic school, and we got $21,000 budgeted for the job, so let's hire this guy. So I got the job, not because I had ability, but because I was a dummy economically, and I came cheap. Well, the University of Detroit was so good to me, and my life changed one day. We got into the round of 16, and we played the #1 team in the nation, Michigan, Ricky Green and Phil Hubbard. My kids were so fired up. We wanted to play against the best, and they wouldn't put us on their schedule. But the only way to get them was through the tournament. We had won 21 in a row that year. We beat my unbelievable favorite coach of all time, Al McGuire, and we beat them in Milwaukee that year. He won the national title. And we had some NBA players, and Terry Tyler and John Long, Terry Durod, and we had some good players. And we played Michigan nose for nose, and the game was televised, our only game televised, on NBC Regional. Little did I know the producer of that game, the guy involved in production, was a guy named Scotty Connell. But doing the game was Kurt Gowdy and John Wooden. My players and I couldn't wait at practice. I was like a little kid, man, with my scrapbook. Couldn't wait to get pictures, to talk to Kurt Gowdy about Ted Williams. But all he wanted to talk about was his fishing buddy, his buddy Bob Knight. And what a man he was. Everything you said, Bob, he was so special. And I enjoyed, he made me feel like $1 million. You would have never known that he was one of the great broadcasters of all time. And John Wooden, standing there, I was like in awe. I could not believe that John Wooden was doing one of our games. Well, all of a sudden, we lose a heartbreaker in the last minute. Little did I know that day, my life would change. Because all of a sudden, November 8, 1979, I also have to thank Mr. Davidson, who gave me one of the great thrills when we met in that restaurant and you decided to hire me as the coach with the Pistons. Think about it. Think about it. Sixth grade teacher in 1970. In 1978, I'm coaching in the NBA. I'm looking at Jerry West down the other sideline. Jerry, I'll admit this. I was like, should I go over and get a picture? Should I get an autograph? Maybe that was my problem. I was in such awe of you, but I got the Ziggy, and I will never forget it. It was November 8, 1979, and I talked to Mr. Davidson on the phone, who's a heart of gold. You can't find a better human being for the way he treats people and what you've done for people. And I told you tonight, Mr. Davidson, this is the first time we've shared conversation in 30 years since the day you came to my house. And I told you, I'm so sorry, because if there's one emptiness on my resume, it's the fact I let you down, I let the people of Detroit down. I never did what I wanted to do in my heart and what I really planned to do when I was named coach of the Detroit Pistons. But you put on my resume a fact that I am a high school coach, a college coach, and a pro coach, and I will never, ever, ever forget that in my journey in getting here today. But on that day, you should always listen to your wife, because my wife said to me that morning as the phone rang, I was getting ready to prepare to play against Dr. J in Philadelphia Friday night, and I had a forward that was on a 10-day contract, and I had to try to motivate him to guard Julius Erving. Are you serious? I mean, are you kidding me? But all of a sudden, the phone rang. Madeline, who's here tonight, my administrative assistant, called me. She said, Mr. Davidson called and said, before you come to practice, he's coming over your house. He wants to talk to you. My beautiful wife said to me, prepare yourself. You're getting fired. I said, get out of here. It's 12 games in a season. I haven't been winning. He's not going to fire me. Sure enough, the limousine pulled up. Mr. D came in the house in a very, very kind way. He simply said, we've made a coaching change. I said, coaching change? What does that mean? He said, well, you've been fired. Well, I shed a few tears that day. He offered me a job in the organization, but I just didn't feel in my heart I can do the things for the organization that I really wanted to do from the standpoint of being a coach. And then all of a sudden my phone rang. About 2 weeks later, the phone rings. Hey, my name is Scotty Connell. You don't know me. He said, but I did your game when you played Michigan, and I wrote your name down. I heard you speak to your team. And I said, I want to give that guy a chance in television. He said, I have just been named the head of a new network in terms of production, along with Chet Simmons as president from NBC, and would like you to do our very first game. It's going to be DePaul in Wisconsin, and it's going to be in Chicago. I said, sorry, I want to get back to college, man. I want to get back where I could use my spirit, my passion. He had no choice but to fire me. I wasn't patient. I didn't have the ability to handle losing. It was tough. But I wanted to get back to college. My wife said to me, why don't you do the game? I said, no, I'm not doing the game. And I'll tell you, I was depressed. I was depressed because my life was exploding. It was on a fast track from the 6th grade to the NBA. And then all of a sudden you get fired and you find out about friends. And you find out, as my wife used to say, they're associates, but a lot of them aren't friends. And they disappear. And then all of a sudden, he called back. And my wife said, look, all you're doing is sitting home, feeling sorry for yourself. I was watching Luke and Laura at General Hospital. I mean, that's how bad it was. And then all of a sudden, I finally said yes. And I went and did that game. And I can tell you this, it's been 30 of the most incredible years that anybody can ever have. I can't thank George Bodenheimer, the president who's here, enough. Not only for being a great leader, a man who, like Bob Knight, like a John Thompson, has great leadership skills, but also for his friendship in tough times and in good times. George is a great inspirational story for every one of you youngsters out there. Listen to me carefully. About 20 years ago, A man would greet me at the airport as my driver. He'd meet me at the airport, and he'd say, Dickie V, my name is George Bodenheimer. I said, George, get me some newspapers. George, get me something to eat. And George would say, look, where am I going with my life? This is unbelievable. He said, I got a great degree. I got a great education. I want to get in marketing. And all I am is working in the mail room and driving guys like you and Berman. Where am I going? It was something about him. I should say, George, someday you're going to make it. You have all the qualities about being a winner. Well, about 12 years ago, I'm at the airport in Atlanta, and I'm in a delay, and I grab USA, and I look at the headline. Oh, my God, president of ESPN, George Bodenheimer. I called up his office. I told his secretary I didn't want to talk to him, but I wanted his voicemail. And I said, where am I going with my life? I'm going nowhere. All I do is drive you and Birdman. I said, George, don't give me a wristwatch. I want a new contract, baby. George, I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart. You, John Skipper, and Norby, and all the people for being so great to me. Where would I be without all the announcers? Jim Simpson, who started me in remotes, the legendary Jim. I think about people like Bob Lee and John Saunders, who's here tonight and does a phenomenal job for the V Foundation, how they really worked with me religiously in the studio, teaching me how to get in and out, even though they will tell you now I still don't know how to get in and out. But I can't thank them enough. I can't thank all the guys that I've stood next to, Hall of Famers, superstars, the Keith Jacksons, the Brent Musburgers, the Jim Simpsons, the current stars, people like Brad Nessler and Mike Patrick, and of course my latest, and he's going to be a big star, Dan Schulman. I had Dan's here tonight. I can't thank them enough. I can't thank all the people in the studio, the late Jimmy V. What a pleasure it was working with him. And Jimmy's legacy to me will not be cutting the nets down, looking for someone to hug, but it's going to be right now over $75 million we have been able to raise thus far to battle a disease. To battle a disease that affects us all, whether you're black, white, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, it doesn't matter. Cancer brings you to your knees. And the only way we'll ever beat it by having people like Bob, and next year Rick Pitino and Billy Donovan we're going to honor, and the year after Tony Dungy, and raise millions each night so that we can battle that disease and put an end to it. But I worked with Jimmy, I worked with Digger, I worked with a rising star, a guy that, my God, 10 years from now, no telling where he's going to be. And Jay Billis, his brilliant mind is unbelievable, and his work ethic. I work with studio hosts, people like John Saunders and Mike Tirico, Chris Fowler, and now a young star in Reese Davis. All have been so good to my family and to me. They've put me in a comfort zone. And I close by telling you this. My family, I have my dream team. My dream team starts with my wife. We heard about the miracle in 1969, the miracle of the Mets. Well, it was also the miracle of Richard J. Vitale, because I ran into this beautiful redhead, and I can't ever forget the first night I laid eyes on her, and many of the coaches, buddies of mine, were there. I said, guys, you got no shot. That is mine. Magic, I may have lost the battle for you in recruiting, but I didn't lose that battle. I won that one, baby. And I'll tell you this, Lorraine. Anybody that knows my wife, Bob told her tonight, he said, sainthood. 37 years living with that guy? Are you serious? Lorraine, I love you so much. 37 of the greatest years any man could ever have. You've been at my side, good times, bad times. You've been such a support. My brother and my sister are here. My brother, a Hall of Famer in his own way. Hall of Famer as a husband, Hall of Famer as a dad. My sister, a Hall of Famer mom. I came up from a family that was filled with such love. My family had so much love. I will never forget my dinner table. My mother and father were uneducated, 5th grade at best, but they had a doctorate of love. I can remember the words of my mom till this day. Don't ever, Richie, don't ever, ever believe in can't. Richie, chase your dreams. Oh, Mom, I've chased those dreams. And because of her inspiration and my dad, I watched. I learned. We talk about work ethic. I can't remember my dad ever missing a day's work because he had the flu or he had a headache. He pressed coats. The more coats he pressed, the more money he made. And then he came home and he ate. And I looked at our dinner table with Terry and John, and I'd watch and I'd observe. And then I'd put a security guard uniform on and go to work from 6 to 12 at the mall. That was his life. I've been stealing money, talking about a game, getting paid. That's why it breaks my heart when I see some athletes, chips on their shoulder. Are you serious? Flying charter planes? I don't want to hear about 80 games a year. What other job you get 4 months vacation? Are you serious? Making millions if you can't play? If you can't play, you're going to make $2-3 million a year. Think about it. I look at my dad and I watch him put the dollars every Friday. X number of dollars for the insurance salesman, X number of dollars for food. But I felt that love. I watched my mother go up and down our stairway, dragging her leg after a stroke, dragging her leg and walking to church every day. And I said, Mom, how do you do that? Why do you do that? But that's why I'm here tonight. I learned about what our country is all about. Our country is about people like my mom and dad. Their love has always been special. This has been a very emotional year for me and my family. I mean, about 8-10 months ago, I got news that wasn't very good news. December 5th, I walked into a doctor's office in Boston, a genius, a man who has a reputation to be the best at what he does, recommended by my doctor in Sarasota, Florida. He said, Dick, I don't like what I see in your throat. I got to get you to see the best, Dr. Vitale's. I always tell him he's the Tom Brady, the Kevin Garnett, the Papi Ortiz in the city of Boston in what he does. Well, I went in to see him on December 5th after the Jimmy V Classic, and he shocked me when he said to me, I don't care, Dick, what those other doctors tell you about reflux. I have equipment they don't have. And my friend, you have a problem. You have lesions that are ulcerated on your vocal cords, and it could be cancer. My God, I didn't think about basketball. I thought about my family. I thought about my beautiful daughters, Terry and Sherry. Am I so lucky that intellectually and physically you take after your mother and not your father? Both went to Notre Dame. Their sons-in-laws, Thomas, a prosecutor, played quarterback for Lou Holtz at Notre Dame. My other son-in-law, one of the top hand, shoulder, elbow surgeons in our area. Just beautiful people, Dr. Chris Forzo. Beautiful people, family, and we were all crushed. Most of all, I was crushed because I thought my career was over. I told Yubi Brown today, as Yubi and I were going out to talk to our troops, I said, Yubi, like you in the mid-70s, still going strong, where would we be without being behind a microphone, talking about a game we love? So when Dr. Zeitels gave me that news, it shook me. And for 2 weeks, the fear of the unknown, waiting for that surgery on December 18th, tore my insides apart. My heart goes out to every lady and to every man that has to wait for a biopsy. It could be a life-changing situation, that phone call. That phone call could change your life forever. Well, through the genius of Dr. Zeitels, I got another break. And I will never forget on February 6th, when my wife and I pulled up to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for a Duke, North Carolina game. And when we pulled up and I heard those students begin to chant, Dickie V, Dickie V, I began to cry. My God, it was unbelievable, unbelievable. I close by simply saying, to all the fans, I love you so much. To all the players, the coaches, to all the beautiful people that have opened their heart to me, to allow me to be here. It's subjective when you talk as a contributor. It's not subjective when you talk about Pat Riley, a master communicator, a Patrick Ewing, a defensive dynamo, a scoring machine like Adrian Dantley, Olajuwon Hakeem. I will never forget being in a hotel lobby with you, and as we got on the elevator, just the two of us, and you were down, it was your freshman year, the Sugar Bowl, and you just were struggling because you were new playing basketball. And I shook your hand, son, and we looked at each other, and I said to you, son, someday you're going to be special because you're agile, you're mobile, you're hostile, and you're not fragile. Well, I can tell you that was one of the first times, I guess, in my life I ever was right with an analysis. But I will tell you in closing, tonight belongs to my dream team. My wife, Terry Sherry, my sister, my brother, and most of all, my mom and my dad. Mom, Dad, I know you're not here, but I know you're in spirit. And I love you so much for giving me that drive, that determination, that desire to chase my dreams, to believe in a simple formula in life. Passion plus work ethic plus good decision making in your personal life equals W, win in a game of life. God bless. Thank you.